Hello, everybody. I'm back. It's Rolf from Waves and Positions. I got this really cool Substack where I write articles about cool stuff you've probably never heard about because I never heard about it before I wrote the article. That's kind of how I get inspired by to write the articles. I'll hear something that I never knew about, and then I'll research it, and now you can learn all the cool things I have too by joining my Substack. I try to post articles several times a week, as well as chapters of fictional stories that I'm writing. So you can see back here, we got ourselves a ship, the Razor Crest. I just wanted to give some opinions on, the Mandalorian movies coming out in about a month. It's April 14th. And I was a huge fan of the original series that came out a few years ago. Seasons 1 and 2 were good. My family, I have 3 boys. So we were, I was a lifelong Star Wars fan. And I had gotten my 3 boys, were well on their way to being Star Wars fans as well. Until Star Wars just kind of some people in charge at Star Wars just forgot what a story was, forgot everything. So and just to let you know, like, some of these really smart people at Disney thought that no one buys toys anymore. Okay, well, they don't buy toys from dumb shows. So let me show you this puppy here. This is probably the greatest Star Wars toy ever made. It's like a full-size Razor Crest, and with zero advertising. Well, I guess I just can't say zero. I didn't see any TV advertisements, but there's this thing called HasLabs where, when Disney first bought Star Wars, they flooded the entire market with these really cheap, terrible toys. And people just aren't stupid. Like, people will pay more for better stuff. We don't want to pay less for crappy stuff. So they flooded the market with these terrible toys. Everyone was pissed. And so Hasbro came up with this HasLabs thing where they make really high quality toys where we crowdfund it. So with almost no advertising other than you had to know that HasLabs even exists, they made a few YouTube videos. 29,000 people, just by word of mouth, or who knows how they found out, paid $350 for this toy, which it had to hit certain benchmarks to even go into production. So 29,000 people spent $350. If anybody has a calculator, that's $10 million with almost no advertising. And we had to wait a year for it to go into production. Like, they didn't even start making this thing till we paid the $350 up front. So the whole idea that people don't buy toys anymore, that are low quality for terrible shows, which The Mandalorian was really good. The first season and the second season were really good, especially, I believe, the last episode of season 2 where Luke Skywalker, spoiler alert, this only came out like 5 years ago, so gave you 5 years. Luke Skywalker arrives, de-aged Luke Skywalker sometime after Return of the Jedi, and it's awesome. I mean, it's so awesome. It's the highest, I think, rated watched thing ever on Disney Plus. Unless something else I'm unaware of has broken the record. But at the time, it was just like by a wide margin, the most watched thing on Disney Plus. After that, everything went downhill. We had the Book of Boba Fett after the credits of Mandalorian season 2, there was this really cool teaser for the Book of Boba Fett. And that is when all our hearts were broken. I mean, we went from like some of the coolest stuff ever to the Book of Boba Fett was, I'm not even joking, like Power Rangers quality. Like you're like laughing to yourself, how could this be this bad? And so Disney freaked out. It's so weird because I couldn't figure out what happened. After the first 3 or 4 episodes, they basically just canceled the entire series because people were just like, what is this garbage? And so they inserted in just these 2 like random episodes from Mandalorian, probably was supposed to be season 3. So you're watching the Book of Boba Fett for 2-3 weeks and then all of a sudden there's like this other show starts without where you're just like, what now? What's going on here? And it was good. It was good, but it wasn't Book of Boba Fett. It was like the Mandalorian doing a mission, a bounty hunter mission. And then what I've heard through other sources, you know, all the online people, was that they quickly sort of recut some of the really garbage Book of Boba Fett stuff to just mash the Mandalorian into it to sort of make it make sense. And then my Power Rangers reference, it's no joke because the Power Rangers arrive at the end of the Book of Boba Fett. They, no joke, have these sort of young Power Ranger looking kids riding like a bright orange, bright red, bright green, bright purple, bright blue mopeds into action. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? You gotta be kidding me. Sorry, my other rant I have to tell people about. So the other really insane thing is, you see this puppy here. I just told you about it. We all paid $350, right? $10 million. Then I think it was Richard Rodriguez or whatever. They blew up the ship in season 2, like right after everyone paid the 10 million, and we're waiting for this. It's like the Millennium Falcon of the Mandalorian. They just blew it up and was like, yeah, we don't care. We don't want it anymore. So everyone was just like, what? So like if you watch the new trailers for the Mandalorian movie, somehow the Razor Crest is back. So I don't know if it's a flashback or, you know, they probably didn't make just one of these ships. So maybe there's a production line of these ships. So anyways, now that I'm been talking for a while, I wanted to read one of my stories so that people kind of get an idea of who was the real heart behind Star Wars. So most people kind of realize like the first 3 movies were just special. So I got a bunch of trivia here for people who just don't even know. But so Lucas negotiated this deal where he got access. He got to own all the sequels. So Star Wars comes out. It's the highest grossing movie of all time. And all of a sudden he's got this leverage where he could just go out and get a loan from Bank of America for $25 million and make Empire Strikes Back the greatest independent film of all time. Okay. I'll say that again. Empire Strikes Back is an independent film, not associated with any studio. Just because the first Star Wars, which was financed by 20th Century Fox, did so well, a bank gave George Lucas $25 million to make the sequel, completely independent. So just think about that. Like if Empire Strikes Back had failed, we'd never have had like any Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm would have not existed. It's just so crazy to think about that. Like he bet on himself. But if you've ever wondered, like, why does Star Wars kind of suck? Like, why were the prequels a little bit off? You know, it had the cool Darth Maul, it had the cool stuff and the really cool worlds. but the story just wasn't quite right. And the reason is because basically like the soul and heart of Star Wars was missing. Now, the original 3 films were made by George Lucas and his wife, Marcia Lucas. And people just don't understand how critical she was to the story and the feeling that a silly sci-fi film could become one of the greatest franchises of all time. Because George Lucas, um, we all know he's one of the best businessmen of all time in Hollywood. The best, maybe the best of all time. He's really good at coming up with cool ideas. He's really good at world building, like these really grand, amazing ideas for stuff. But what no one seems to get is that his wife was the one who was the architect of the story. So basically, once you get into the editing room, so most people don't realize that his wife was one of the best editors in Hollywood even before uh you know everyone thinks that she left him and there was some scandal or something. And it's it's uh it's a story that I'd like to tell here to so people just understand what happened. Okay, so Marcia Lucas was the editor for all of George Lucas's things until they got divorced. Now, she wanted to not be the editor on Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but unfortunately, the people who were hired to be the editors did not do what was necessary to create the best stuff of all time. So Marcia Lucas had to actually go back and re-edit, almost start from scratch, all of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Most people just don't know that because you see the credits and it's got a credit for somebody who it's not the person who did the work. So, and if you want to learn more about this, there's a really cool documentary. Just search for it. It's kind of like on every streaming service now. It used to be sort of paywalled, but I think you can just watch it for free on YouTube. It's called Icons Unearthed, Star Wars. So here's my article, The Hidden Architect of Star Wars, Why Icons Unearthed Will Change Everything You Know, Everything You Thought You Knew About George Lucas, the original trilogy, and the soul of Star Wars. So here we go. Okay. Everyone thinks Star Wars was George Lucas's singular vision. But what if the real secret behind the trilogy's emotional power, the soul, the saga, was someone history nearly erased? If you're a Star Wars fan who felt like something was missing in the prequels, in the sequels, in the lifeless Disney reboots, you're not crazy. You're not nostalgic. You're sensing the absence of a woman who shaped the most iconic trilogy of all time, Marcia Lucas. The documentary series Icons Unearthed Star Wars doesn't just tell you the behind the scenes story, it detonates it. You really got to see this. If you're a Star Wars fan, if you haven't seen this documentary, Icons Unearthed Star Wars, you don't know what Star Wars is. So this isn't another fluff piece. This is the alternate history we all needed to see. Whether you take it all as fact or filter it as one side of the story, the effect is the same. You'll never see Star Wars the same way again. Okay, who was Marcia Lucas and why she was erased? She was more than George's wife, more than a film editor. Marcia Lucas was the emotional compass of the original trilogy. She won the Oscar for the first movie, A New Hope. I mean, she's integral in the story. Like she's the one who suggested Obi-Wan should die to make it stronger story. She's the one who edited the trench sequence so you feel an emotion. Like her instincts on emotional storytelling are just very few people quite understand this. And this is part of what you have to do in your life. You have to identify your superpower and then you get other people to do the stuff you struggle with. So like George, one of the best businessmen of all time, amazing, cool ideas for these wild worlds, which, if you read the Foundation series, Isaac Asimov, it's all galactic empire and photon torpedoes and stuff. So obviously he read those books, but he made his own story. Okay, so she won the Oscar for editing A New Hope. She restructured the final trench run to create that perfect edge of your seat rhythm. She told George, I already said all the stuff, sorry. She told George Lucas to kill Obi-Wan because the story needed a deeper sacrifice. She gave the raw material its pulse. George gave us the world. Marcia made us feel it. And yet after their divorce, her name slowly disappeared, not from the credits, but from the conversation, from the mythology of how Star Wars was made. You just think like if George had just brought Marcia back for the prequels, oh my God, we'd have 6 movies that were just like unbelievable. So why Star Wars lost its soul after she left? When Marcia walked away, so did the soul of Star Wars. Look at the emotional shift. The prequels are dazzling but cold. The sequels are polished but hollow. The Disney area storytelling feels more like a theme park ride than a mythic journey. I mean, Disney's insane. I mean, purchase Star Wars. The first thing I would do is bring Marcia Lucas in to advise and be the one who locks in the final edit. She doesn't, I mean, she's old. They're all like 80. So, I mean, she probably doesn't want to be working 24 hours a day on doing editing, but give her some input on the baby she created. The only modern moment that recaptured some of that spark, Rogue One's final scene. And that was achieved by editors and VFX teams reverse engineering the feeling of the originals. So I would say Rogue One and Mandalorian season 1 and 2 are pretty good, and several episodes of Andor. But other than that, actually, there's a little anthology series where they had different filmmakers make these little animated shorts. And there's one that's like made in this old Japanese style. That is really good. So Disney created a few good things. And I know Rogue One was when a lot of the Lucasfilm employees were still there after it just got sold to Disney, which I don't know. Now they're not there, obviously, because it's bad. So with Marcia, there's no guiding hand reminding George or anyone else why the character, timing, and emotion matter more than the shiny effects. I mean, it doesn't matter who the actor is, black, white, gay, straight. Nobody cares. It just has to be good. Like literally all this bull crap about woke or whatever, it's just code for like it's a bad story. People literally do not care who is the star if it's good. It just has to be a good story. This has to be amazing. That's your only thing is that the story has to be amazing, and you can add in all the special effects after, but the story has to be awesome. Okay, hot take. And then I don't blame the actors anymore either. Just watching Disney, because some of my favorite actors look horrendous in the Star Wars Disney stuff. I'm just like, can't blame the actors if it's a terrible story and they don't know what they're doing. Okay, hot take of the day. George Lucas didn't fully understand why it worked. George is a visionary, a world builder, a genius businessman. He negotiated one of the most legendary contracts in Hollywood history, which I've already talked about. He gave up his director's fee in exchange for all merchandising and sequel rights. That deal made him a billionaire and let him make Empire Strikes Back completely independent of studio system. But here's the tragic truth. George never fully understood why the first trilogy connected so deeply. George is like, that's a cool ship. Boom. Yes. Cool music. But he like, if you see him in interviews, he's kind of like, well, Marcia was all the emotional bits. And you're like, dude, nobody goes back and watches the movie 5 times in the theater without those emotional bits. I'm sorry. Okay. So without Marcia's instinct, the later films felt like soulless simulations. Okay, The Empire Strikes Back, the greatest independent film ever made. Come on. It's not even close. Not even freaking close. We wouldn't have Lucasfilm would not even have existed without Empire Strikes Back being a hit. And it's just, God, it's the best. It's one of the best movies ever made. I try to, when people ask me my top 10, I always put Empire Strikes Back up here before I start the top 10 because I'm like, first, it's independent. Second, the story is just amazing. And it's just the best Shakespearean tragedy of all time. Just the tragic ending is just wanting more. It's just so crazy. Awesome. Okay, think about it. Empire wasn't just a great movie. It was the most successful independent film in history, funded outside of Hollywood, built with ILM, which would go on to transform every blockbuster over the next 40 years. Think about that. Empire Strikes Back fails. Every movie until some of those guys started their own companies, you know, came from George Lucas's innovation. So, I mean, and you think about what a great businessman George Lucas is. He funded every little technological advancement needed, like, custom computers and custom cameras. And every movie had part of their budget paid for that incremental stuff. If Empire Strikes Back fails, none of that happens. None of that, like Avatar, James Cameron's thing, all those things that were incrementally, created by ILM and George Lucas never happens. Okay, sparked a revolution in digital effects, sound design, modern myth making. That empire, it all started with a single person betting on himself and a team that included the best film editor of her generation. And I mean, there are a lot of filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. A lot of people know that Marcia Lucas's her judgments are amazing. And I think it's on the record too that she made some substantial changes and helped with Indiana Jones as well, to help the story again. And I know also with Return of the Jedi, they hired sort of like just people to do a job, the editors and the director, which didn't really work out. And so when Marcia had to sort of re-edit the entire Return of the Jedi, they missed some stuff. So they missed the part where Darth Vader makes a choice and saves Luke and stuff. So they had to go back and reshoot that stuff. So it's like without her there, you're missing these things that are very important to why it succeeded. So that's why the prequels, when you watch them, you're like, this is Star Wars. And you watch them now, it's better than Disney Star Wars. There's still something missing. All right, so what Icons Unearthed reveals that Disney never will. This docuseries pulls back the curtain. It tells the truth no one at Disney dares to say. It tells the truth no one at Disney dares to say out loud. Star Wars isn't Star Wars without Marcia Lucas. And maybe worst of all, the sequels, especially The Force Awakens, don't just lack originality. They straight up steal scenes from Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, shot for shot. I mean, here's another. So Nausicaa, by the way, is what gave Hayao Miyazaki the power to launch Studio Ghibli. So if you haven't seen it, you can probably find it on like HBO or on YouTube. This Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, it's amazing. And it stars a character that is like shot by shot Rey in several scenes of Force Awakens. You're just like, they didn't even try not to copy it exactly. So is there anyone creative left at Disney? Or are they just rearranging dead stars? Okay, final thought. It's time to rewrite the narrative. It's time to give Marcia Lucas her place, not just in the credits, but in the canon. If you love Star Wars, if you ever wondered what went wrong, if you ever want to understand what made it magical in the first place, watch Icons Unearthed Star Wars. And then tell the world, no Marcia, no Star Wars. All right, so this is from my Substack. So if you go to my Waves and Positions Substack, I've got this article plus a few references. I can put links to where you can find the docuseries is so good. You learn the whole arc of Lucasfilm from beginning to end, from I think they respect George. George is not in it other than referenced. It's definitely unauthorized, I would say, but it's through Marcia and a lot of the crew that were instrumental in also making these films. So it's worth your time just to get a different perspective. And check me out more on Waves and Positions, Substack. I got a lot of cool stuff. I grouped a lot of things under hidden history because most of the stuff I post is kind of these cool things that you may have heard of, but you didn't know the full story. It's kind of the hidden history. All right. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.